Welcome to Wife Reset. This month I have Heather Suarez, and we're going to be talking about time reset. What do you do with your time after caregiving? Welcome, Heather. How are you doing?
Good morning, afternoon. I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So tell us a little bit about your story before caregiving and then where you are now.
Okay. Before caregiving, um, literally, when God brought Ernesto into my life, um, I instantly had a pull toward him and didn't know the length of his traumatic brain injury. And I had a lot of people talking to me about it and telling me, Heather, that's not the way you want to live, and a lot of hurdles to jump through with him. And he would tell me my brain is non-restorable. He knew he had been in a bad car accident, and it didn't bother me. If anything, it made me love him more. Um, and then we got married, and I took on the full responsibility of being a wife and a caregiver. Every day I was told by doctors that we would have to stay on a routine so his brain could continue to go in the forward motion instead of going backwards. On our daily, we would wake up, say our prayers. He would go to his Bible study. God blessed us to the point where we had a business together, a handyman business, and literally, God knew what He was doing when He put us together. To be honest, he was my best friend. He was my soulmate. We hardly ever argued. If we did, it was for like 2 seconds, and then he would just joke around and making me smile. And some days were harder than others. Some days he would wake up and it would take a while for the brain to wake up, is what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
And he would stare and I would ask him, Ernesto, are you okay? I'm fine. I'm fine. You know, um, and a lot of times he would tell me, you don't know what it's like to be inside of my head. And he was right. I didn't know what it was like
Mm-hmm.
to be inside his head. And I would just show him unconditional love no matter what. Everywhere we went, I was the left, he was the right, or he was the left and I was the right. Um, we worked together, we did yard work together. We built this house that God blessed us with. We would paint. Ernesto had one speed, and that was 1,000 miles an hour. I had to learn how to catch up. And when I say I had to learn to catch up, I'm a fast person, but he was a million miles an hour, and that was because the brain was constantly going, and it was either catch up or get left behind.
Mm-hmm.
And as we were after our first year of marriage, we ended up getting an MRI and found out that the brain was getting worse. Because he was starting to forget things and he was starting to get a little bit aggressive, and I would just push it off and be like, it's okay, it's okay. But I had to seek outside help. Um, I first of all, I got into the women's support group that you have online. Um, I went to grief. I've gone to psychiatrist. I've gone to counseling, church. I've had mentoring. I've had meetings and support groups that I've gone to. Um, After we found that out, that the masses or the holes, he would call them, in his brain were starting to deteriorate more from the damage, the doctor said that the dementia and Alzheimer's was going to kick in even
Mm-hmm.
worse. And I started noticing things. I started noticing he would forget to brush his teeth. So I'd be like, honey, we have to brush our teeth. Or, honey, we've worked today. You got to take a shower. Can't be laying in the bed dirty. And it would be in a loving way, but it would be like I want to say it would be like a game, kind of in a good way. I would have to switch his clothes around in the closet because his brain only focused on the front. He didn't look to the left, he didn't look to the right, so I would have to rearrange his clothes every week in the closet for him. Sometimes he would forget to, wipe or flush the toilet, so I would have to help remind him, and he would tell me, I'm a man, I can do it. And it would hurt my heart. The man, I was watching the man that I loved slowly deteriorate because of his brain injury. And, it just made me love him more. I would pray and pray every day and ask God and Jesus, my higher power, to help give me strength to get through today, because I wanted to love him as much as I could. And I wanted to keep him as happy and as routinely as I could. But also let him have his own little things when he wanted to go mow the lawn every day, which he would, because the brain would forget. So it was like living the same routine over and over, or he'd pull the same weeds, or he would be like, Mrs. Suarez, are you going to clean the house today? And I'd be like, I just cleaned it yesterday. um, or make dinner. And then he'd be like, Mrs. Suarez, why are we eating this? He used to call me beautiness. And he used to always
Oh.
wake me up with a cup of coffee in the morning and give me a kiss and tell me he loved me. And he would always say thank you to me. And, I missed that.
Mm-hmm.
His grandfather had passed, and that was back in November of last year, not this past year, but the year before. We're in 2025, so it was 2023. And I remember him sitting on the couch telling me he wanted to go to Puerto Rico to the funeral. And, I had to talk to my mentors and I had to talk to my women and they were like, Heather, you're his wife. You're not his mom. Let him go. And this was the very first time that we had ever been separated since we got married or God put us together.
Now, did he
Um,
travel by himself,
he
or did
did.
he?
He made the choice to go by himself because we have a dog, Buddy Jesus, and he wanted to go. And I didn't know then what I know now, that his mom and everybody told him, no, don't come. And I think in the back of his mind, he knew it was a risk. And he just said, I'm going to leave it in God's hands, is what he said to me. So I put like a little emergency cards in his backpack, in his wallet, took him to the Orlando airport on November 4th. And November 5th, he wasn't even in Puerto Rico for 12 hours. And I had a weird feeling. I was out back and I had a feeling like something just totally dropped out of my body. And I
Mm,
was talking to Buddy Jesus and I said, Daddy's gonna be mad we're cutting his mango tree. And I had noticed that I hadn't heard from my husband in a couple hours. They were having the viewing down in Ponce, Puerto Rico. And I texted him, are you okay? And I won't ever forget the next phone call I got. It wasn't even 30 seconds. And his mom and his dad were screaming on the other end, saying something bad had happened to Ernesto.
mm,
Um, it was like my worst nightmare. I screamed and I said, what happened? And nobody could get their story straight. They just said that he turned blue and died next to the casket, died of a broken heart. And that they were taking him to the hospital and to call his brother. And I remember trying to break my kitchen table in half, literally, and screaming
wow.
no. And I told his brother to send me a picture of him. I didn't believe it. I was like, no. I was like, what am I supposed to do? They're like, you're supposed to fly here. And I was like, I'm not getting on a plane. I'm scared to death of planes. And his brother sent me the picture and he was on a ventilator. And I knew that
Mm,
was bad. I knew that was really bad. So I called my support women and my church and my Celebrate Recovery and my mentors and my sponsor and everyone, my best friends, everybody that I could think of. And I made one phone call and everybody was here. Everybody was here in the house, in the kitchen. And they were like, Heather, we need to get you on the next flight out. And I said, I'm not getting on a plane. I said, my husband's going to be fine. Can't you send his sister? Can't you send, somebody else? And I was in shock, and they literally said to me, very lovingly and kindly, has said, Heather, it's that bad. You have to go. And I said, who's
that's
going to watch? I said, who's going to watch the house? Who's going to take care of the dog? They had it all worked out. There was like 20, 25 people here.
that's so awesome that you had such a supportive community around you. That is so necessary. So necessary. I can't stress how necessary it is.
And
when you're going through something so traumatic like that, to have support. That's awesome.
I had one lady packing my backpack. I had another lady, Pastor Gordon and his wife Holly, making the airline tickets. She actually told me, I'm going to lend you my husband to go with you to Puerto Rico, because I didn't want, that was his mentor. That was Ernesto's mentor through his
Mhm.
Bible studies. And I remember they said, we'll be back in 20 minutes. And I said, 20 minutes? I said, I'm not getting on a plane. I remember feeling like I was having a heart attack. I couldn't breathe. I was losing it. And they were like, we're going to hold you up. I remember driving to Orlando Airport in the back seat with tears just streaming down my eyes. And I remember asking Holly, I said, is it that bad? And she said, it's that bad, Heather. You're going to have to go to make some decisions. And I knew
Mhm.
then that it was that bad. I remember the doctors telling me that if Ernesto ever hit his head again or ever gotten some kind of accident or lost oxygen, that he wouldn't survive. So we had already had those conversations. And this was literally just before our 2-year wedding anniversary. November 5th, I flew down there. We got down there. Me and Pastor Gordon prayed over him. I seen my husband on the ventilator, and I had never seen my husband die. I had never seen my husband cry
Mhm.
before, and he had tears coming out of his eye, and his heart rate went up. And I feel in my heart that he knew I was there. And we prayed over him and asked for God's will to be done, not mine, not anyone
Exactly.
else's.
Mhm.
And we went back to the hotel to check in. And about an hour and a half later, I couldn't sleep, and neither could Pastor Gordon. And we decided to go back to the hospital. And I remember the security guard saying, because his mom and stepdad met us out front, and there's only 2 people allowed back at a time. And I remember the security guard could speak a little bit of English. And he said, be prepared for what you're about to see. And I said, well, I just left here an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. It can't be that much worse. And we couldn't go behind the curtain. And they said I had to wait. There was a lot of people back there working or doing something. And me and his mom were talking. And Puerto Rico works a lot different than America. That's all I'm going to say. They didn't call me to tell me my husband had coded about 45 minutes prior. He passed. Um, and they had already had him in the body bag. And that was the most second traumatic thing I think I've ever had to live through in my life. I didn't think it was him. I told them to prove to me that it was him, but his mom had already undone it. And it was him. And, everything after that was a whirlwind. If I wouldn't have had Pastor Gordon with me, I don't think I would have made it. If I didn't have my support people that I could call back to the States and talk to, um, I wanted to die. I'm going to be honest, I wanted to die. That was my best friend, my soulmate, my everything. Like my life, I gave and revolved all around Ernesto. Um, Caregiving is such an honor and such a privilege. I felt
It
that
is.
God would trust me to take care of one of his children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And God honors you for that. God honors you for that. And it's so we wrap ourselves up in caring for our husbands. We do. And again, it was so awesome that you had your support team there with you. So, now that your caregiving journey has ended, uh, who is Heather now? What does Heather do with her time now?
Um,
We know that there's grief still there. It comes in
it
stages, it
was,
comes and goes. But
yeah,
what,
Heather's life now is not, grief doesn't hit me every day. To be honest, when I first lost my husband, I mean, I didn't want to live. I literally was like praying in the morning and like, God, why are you waking me up to see another day? Like, why? And people would say to me, Heather, when God answers you, let me know. And I'd be like, oh, they have jokes. And I couldn't ever understand that. I know the only thing that I can tell you about the last year is that literally God has carried me. I never understood footprints in the sand, and I do now.
Mhm.
I look back on the year and I don't remember any of it. I see pictures, my kids tell me, I see videos, I see posts, the celebration of life for my husband. Um, I don't remember any of it. I know that I got up every morning, whether I wanted to or not, and I prayed. I hit my knees and I prayed and I said, God, because I was real mad at God for 6, 7 months, I think. And I was like, I don't, I'd roll my eyes and be like, I don't know why you woke me up to see another day. Like, what is your purpose for me down here now that you took Ernesto?
Mhm.
Because I want to be of maximum service to God and others. That was what I was doing, and that's what I love doing is caregiving. And I can't explain it. Like, God gave him to me, and then I was mad because he took him away. Um, Oh, I was so mad. I think I've blown up. I've blown up two lawnmowers because Ernesto used to do the front yard. I used to do the back. I would be out in the front yard. I think my neighbors think I'm a little crazy. Because Ernesto would do the front, I would do the back. There was lots of times I would walk in circles and be like talking to myself or talking to Ernesto. I went to grief counseling. I was told a lot of things are normal that I was
Mhm.
doing. I had a quilt made with all his t-shirts. I have him on the fireplace. I have his collages and his pictures still all over the house. Um, it has taken me, and it still is taking me, a while to figure out who I am.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not the same woman I was when he first died. Now I get up and I hit my knees and I do say, thank you, God, for waking me up to see another day. And I talk to God before I go to bed. I do things at church and I go to Celebrate Recovery. I've stayed in my support groups. I've stayed, in everything. I tried to go back to work one time. Um, and that was last year and it was way too soon. People kept saying, Heather, I think you need some time to grieve. And then I was reading my Bible and I seen where it said, a widow takes however long she needs to. And I was like, I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready yet. Watching couples come in that were like 70, that was supposed to be us.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that was way too hard for me. I just couldn't handle it emotionally. I kept breaking down and breaking down. And my psychiatrist and my grief counselor kept saying it's normal, Heather. You don't have to if you don't want to. So I stopped working, and then I had just started back to work recently, just before the holidays. Went back to being a server, a waitress, something I know and something I
Mhm.
like, and being maximum service to God and others. It was time to, once that year mark hit, I don't know if it was just the fact that it was a year and I had literally lived through all the firsts, whether they were on my knees bawling and crying in a fetal position in the living room,
Mhm.
or in the yard on my knees crying and saying why. But it was like, okay, all right, God, you made me get through it to this point. So now does the pain start to lessen? It does. Um, can anyone ever replace Ernesto? No. Those are some big shoes to fit,
Mhm.
and I tell God every day, thank you, because whether he had a traumatic brain injury or not, he was the sweetest man that you would ever meet, and he taught me how to love again. He taught me to love unconditionally. And I learned that no matter what, when you love somebody, I'm willing to go to any lengths to be there for him. through good, bad, and different. I took my marriage vows very, very seriously. And, I asked God to send me an angel. And he sent me an angel. He sent me a lawn guy, a lawn guy to do my lawn because I was freaking out one day, and I can't explain this. This is all God. The gentleman ended up getting sick, and I remember going to the hospital and being by his side because he had nobody. And I remember him getting saved in the hospital. He asked me to call my pastor, and God took him home. And at first, I was really
Awesome.
mad. At first, I was mad. I was like, "You keep giving me people, and you keep taking them away." And then I have to remember, I asked God what my purpose was. Now that Ernesto's gone, I asked God to show me what His will for my life is,
Mm-hmm.
not Heather's. And if He brings people in my life, I'm to be non-judgmental, and I'm to bring them in with open arms and love them. And if it's they get saved at the last minute before God took them home, like Red in the hospital, then I'm doing God's work,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
You know what I see here, Heather? I see you surrendering to God's strength. So many times we want to be strong, and we can't be strong. We just can't be strong. We have to lean on God. There's a verse I want to share. It's in 2 Corinthians 12:8 and 10, and I'll just read the last part. It says, "So I take pleasure in weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and in difficulties for the sake of Christ. For when I am weak, He is strong." And it
Amen.
seems like you have surrendered to God's strength, because we as humans want to be strong. We can do this. We want to take on the world, but
Yeah.
it's not our strength. We can't do it. You
There's
can't
no
have
way.
someone in your life that is your life's partner, and then you deal with losing them. You can't get through that with your own strength. You can only surrender to the strength of God, because it's when we're weak, it's when we are at our weakest, it's when we think we can't go on, it's when we say, God, take us, because I
Mhm.
can't.
Yeah.
I can't do this. It's when He's saying, that's what He's waiting for. He's waiting for us to say, okay. And He gives us His strength. And then we take that and we carry that, and then you're carrying it well, because you're sharing it with others, and you're making sure others know Him and are saved before they leave this earth. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. He's giving you a wonderful story, a wonderful testimony.
Thank you.
And that's awesome. And it's great that you've gone back to work, because so many times we want to sit in our mess. We want to sit in our pain because it feels comfortable sometimes.
I couldn't do
And
it anymore. I got tired of staring at the four walls. I got tired of, like, one morning, I just said, God, look, I need like, every day I was saying, help me. But I was like, I can't do this. I don't want to live like this. If you're going to keep me alive, I need you, God. Can you, like, give me the energy or do something? Because Heather doesn't have any answers. I haven't had any answers since I lost Ernesto.
mhm,
And I know God hears me, even though sometimes I still throw my little tantrums, and literally, God and Jesus have carried me. And anybody could have told me how to do this or how to do that. I had to build a relationship with God and Jesus Christ on my level for Him to show me that He could love me and He could take over, and I could just say, just take it all. I mean, at one point I was like, take the house, take the car, take the dog, take me, take everything. Just give me him back. It doesn't work like that.
mhm.
uh, it doesn't work like that. I did. I tried to bargain. I tried to do all those things. But now I look at it as I'm grateful. I'm grateful because me and Ernesto did most things in 2 years that most married couples don't even do in a lifetime. And God allowed me to love him, and God trusted me with his child.
Mhm.
To me, that's an honor and that's a privilege, you know, and I know
Yes,
God's got it.
I
Huh?
I said that to someone. I said it's an honor. It's hard. It's a hard journey, but it's an honor. It's an honor. We complain, we get tired, but that's the human part of us. That's the human part of us. And sometimes, our our brain gets tired, we get frustrated, we get irritated. But that's to be expected because that's the human part of us. But we love the spouse that he's given us.
Mm-hmm.
That's an honor. That's an honor. That's an honor. And you carry it. You carried it well, and you're still carrying it well.
Thank you.
Um, so you've gone back to work. You've gone back
I
to
have.
work.
I
Is
have.
there other things that you do to carry your time? Because I know some people say I take up hobbies. I take
No,
it.
basically I have got involved in a lot of service work. And when I say that, is that is something that I had before and I've carried through with Ernesto. We did it together and now I'm carrying it on. As I do a lot of service work, I mean, I have to stay helping others so I don't stay trapped in my own miserable self. People have asked me, or that self pity. People have asked me, Heather, what are your hobbies? And I'm like, well, I don't have any. The only hobbies I really like is being out there digging up the yard or, pulling weeds, like doing yard work. That makes me happy because I'm out there with God and I can have conversations and just, do stuff that I like to play in the dirt. It's the earth. But I do meetings. I sponsor women. I go out to the Polk County Jail and I do take meetings in there and see women in there. I go out with the street ministries to the homeless. Um, I have to stay busy. When I sit still, which I've just now started to do, where Bay News 9 is not watching me anymore, I'm kind of watching it. Um, but that has just now started to happen where I can actually just sit and focus again. Um, but I work 2 days a week, and I'm grateful for those 2 days a week.
Hmm.
Uh, I try to spend as much time with my grandchildren or my children as I can. But they have lives. My grandchildren now are 13, 10, and they're at that age that that they don't want to be hanging out with grandma no more.
I know I have an 11-year-old, and it's like,
Yeah. And I have Buddy Jesus, my pit bull, and I stay in the middle of my boat. And I say this because I have to reach out. If I don't reach out, nobody knows I'm hurting. If people ask me, "Hey Heather, how are you doing?" Well,
say
you
that
aren't.
again, Heather. Say that again.
Oh, I said I have to reach out. I have
No,
to.
say that again for the people in the back.
I have to reach out to people because if they don't, nobody's gonna know I'm hurting. And
That's such an awesome message right there.
and
Because
I'm
we
serious.
don't
I
like
have to.
reaching
I have
out.
to do. I have to do the work because I thought a lot of people would just know what to do for me. Um, no, they would call or text me and be like, "Is there anything I can do?" And I would just say no. And then finally, my mentor was like, "Heather, you are blocking God's children from helping you. You need to, even if it's a um." My pastor called me and I needed a thing of laundry soap. She's like, "Tell your pastor you need a thing of laundry soap." So him and his wife came over and brought me laundry soap and fabric softener. Another time I said I would love a home cooked meal, or just come sit with me. And a lot of people, a lot of people are scared when people die. When you lose a spouse, a lot of people don't know how to handle. Well, they didn't know how to handle me, and they admitted it to me. They said they didn't know what to say, they didn't know what to do. Um, how have I been? I said, well, you would have known if you were at my front door. But I had to go back and make amends on that and apologize because that was the anger coming out of me because I just assumed other people knew what I needed. Um, and I had to start speaking up for myself. I had to be like, look, I need some help. I don't know how to get through this. And I still don't know how to get through this. That's why I still go to grief counseling. I still go to therapy. I still go see a psychiatrist. And I have to have outside help to come in. Um, and me and my husband had actually discussed that before he passed, that when it got to a certain extent, I would have to call in outside medical help to come in to help me with him. Um, and he had agreed. I thought people would understand of how sad I was or how upset I was or how lost I felt. I had to explain it. I had to be like, hey, I'm having a bad day. Like, can you just come over or just talk to me for 30 minutes on the phone? Or, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to go outside and face the real world, I would have rather stayed here and just let the four walls close in. But I know that that's not what God wanted me to do, and that's definitely not how Ernesto wanted me to live. He wanted me to be happy, and he wanted me, till death do us part. It's hard, and we need a lot of support. It's not easy to do it on your own. I would not recommend it. I would recommend picking up the phone and asking people, just say, hey, I don't know what I'm going through, but just help me. You know, I'm blessed. I'm grateful. I have a community out here, like a village that has literally helped me because I've literally said, hey, I'm falling apart over here. Just come sit with me, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And my life today is I'm grateful for life today. I'm not, throwing my eyes or throwing a fit anymore at God. I'm saying thank you, God, for waking me up to see another day. I go to church. I go to Celebrate Recovery. I do my meetings. I do my sponsorship work. I do, and I say God's work. It's not work, it's God's
Mm-hmm.
work.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I help others, God will help me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
it keeps me out of self.
So what guidance or what words of encouragement would you give to another caregiver wife who is embarking on this road or this journey in her life of not just what to do with your time after spousal caregiving, but how, and I guess you've kind of covered it, how to navigate, um, through it emotionally, spiritually,
Emotionally and
mentally.
spiritually and mentally. The best thing that I can say to share my experience, strength, and hope um, is I had to put God first and foremost, always. I had to hit my knees every morning and ask God to please help me get through today because there is no because. I ask God every day, please help us get through today. Stay in the middle of
Hmm.
everything. And I had to have an outside support group. I had to have other people that I could go talk to once or twice a week, and then he would go with his mentor once a week so I could have like an hour or two by myself just to be like, you know what I mean? Just to have that, okay, God, like,
Hmm.
this is a lot. Your support group was amazing and is still amazing. I'm grateful I found you and all the women on your support team. And I just had to remember. I always used to say, and Ernesto would say it too. What would Jesus do? And sometimes I'd have to go out back and just like scream and be like, "Oh God, help me!" Or go to lunch with someone and vent. But then But then, I had my moments when I would just look at him and he'd just be sitting there, and I'd be like, thank you, God. You
Mhm.
know, thank you for this privilege and this honor. Like, just Ernesto would do the sweetest little thing and everything else would just disappear. And just to stay, you don't have to do it all by yourself. Just ask God to help you and ask other women to help you. Like, if you need my help, I'm here. I can help walk you through it. Or if you just have questions, you don't ever have to be alone. And the biggest thing was I thought I had to do everything on my own. And the biggest relief was I'm not going crazy. There's help out there. All I have
Mhm.
to do is ask for the help and go to the sessions. Me and Ernesto even had a therapy session together once a week. You have to be able to let go somewhere, and a lot of times, I remember one time I told God, I said, I really didn't sign up for this, God. I was having a conversation with him. Ernesto had went in the store to pay for the gas, and Ernesto comes out with a red rose. And I said, okay, God, you know what I mean? Every
Mhm.
Sunday I go to church, and I've walked back into the same church we got married at. That was the hardest one.
Mhm.
And all I did was cry through the whole entire worship, the whole service. And it was cleansing. And then I went back the second time, and then I went back the third time. And I still go to church and I just cry, and I worship and I just say thank you. And I just say, God, what's your plan? Your plan, not Heather's. Like, you have a purpose for me still down here. So can you open up and show me the doors that you want me to walk through?
That's
Because
awesome, Heather. That's awesome.
it's not my world anymore. When I surrendered, I gave it all to God.
And that's it, surrendering.
Hmm.
Surrendering. That's it. We
Every morning
carry
I
so
surrender.
we carry so much unnecessary we carry so much weight and pain on us unnecessarily.
Yes,
When all
ma'am.
we have to do is just surrender. That's all. That's it.
Hmm.
Well, Heather, I am so thankful that you shared your story, that you gave us a lot to think about. Um, but at the same time, you gave us a lot of uh, hope, a lot of hope. And that's what a lot of wives don't have. They're caregiving without hope, that they can get through whatever um, comes in their lives. But that all comes in surrendering, 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 surrendering. Because I have learned that.
Yes, ma'am.
I have learned that there's no way I could get through this caregiving journey without God. I would have
Amen.
lost it by now. you know,
Yes, ma'am.
it's not easy.
It's
So
not.
I'm so grateful for you coming today and for sharing your story. We had some technical difficulties, but I just kept letting you talk and push through it. Um, and you know what? I'm not letting the devil steal this podcast. You hear
No,
me?
ma'am. No, ma'am. We're booking.
Not
Yes,
let him
ma'am.
do it. If I have to
Yes,
put
ma'am.
pictures up and audio only, we're going to get this out.
We are.
I'm going to try to make it work and edit it to the point where but it was awesome speaking with you. I'm so glad you said yes. I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that you're still out there telling your story. I am
Yes,
so
ma'am.
impressed with your surrendering and how you're handling this. I am so grateful for support systems. So grateful for pastors who hold our hands.
Yes,
Um,
ma'am.
so grateful for supportive communities. And thank you for being a part of Wife Reset. Um,
Thank you. I
I'm so
appreciate it. And anything I can do to help others and, by sharing my experience, strength, and hope, I'm honored and privileged because God gets all the glory. I'm just down here doing his work.
He does. And I'm
Yeah.
putting you on have her back on my podcast list.
Okay.
This was awesome, Heather. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thank you.